Hey, how you doing today, guys? Welcome back to another day of 7th grade math. This is Mr. Gomez, your favorite teacher in the whole world, and today we're going to be doing a review of rational numbers. This is 10 questions, and this is STAAR-like questions. And it's going to be just about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing different type of rational numbers. Now, before we start, if you'd like to support this channel, link down in the description. If you haven't seen my other channel, I'll leave a link for you up there. And make sure you check out the other videos that I have for this channel. Let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, which represents 2/3 plus 1 1/4. So what we have in here is two fractions and we need to add them. However, when we add fractions, we need to have the least common denominator. So in this case, I know that my least common denominator is going to be 12. Or you can have any common denominator, but if it's not the least one, then you will have to simplify at the end. And I'm going to show you two ways to do this type of questions. And this is going to work for adding and subtracting, okay? So now, I got to think to myself, what do I need to multiply this 3 to get 12? And the answer is 4. So if I multiply this times 4, that means that I got to multiply the top times 4 as well. So 2 times 4 is going to be 8. Now, what do I need to multiply this to get 12? And the answer is 3. So if I multiply the bottom times 3, that means I also have to multiply the top times 3. And 1 times 3 is 3. Now, all I have to do to add these two fractions is at the top, denominator stays the same, and if I can simplify at the end, I will. So my answer, I can't simplify that any further, so my answer is that. Now, the other way to do this question is like this. So you have 2/3 plus 1/4. This is another way to do this, adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. So what I want you to do is go ahead and multiply these two. When you multiply that, you get 12. So the bottom is going to be 12. Now the next step is going to be to multiply this across. 2 times 4, which is 8, and you put it right there. And then you're going to take whatever sign that is. In this case, we are adding, and you're going to put it right here, plus, because we are adding. Then you're going to take this and multiply by the opposite corner, which is 3. 8 plus 3. Does that look familiar? Now we have the fraction that we can go ahead and add. 8 plus 3 is 11. The bottom is 12. And we're left with the same answer. Again, multiply the denominators. You put it on the bottom. And then cross multiply from left to right. Put it on top. If it's adding, you add. If it's subtracting, you subtract. That's the way you do this one. Number 2, we have Miss Bird's backyard is 125.2 square yards. Her neighbor's backyard is 1.4 times as large as hers. What is the area of the neighbor's yard? So we have a keyword right here. Times. That means to multiply. So literally, all we have to do is multiply 125.2 times 1.4. We go ahead and multiply, but at the end, we have to remember to move the decimal place. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 is 5. And then leave a space right there. So that's a 2, a 5, a 2, and a 1. Then all you got to do is add. So this is 8, this is 2, this is 5, this is 7, and this is 1. Don't forget the decimal places. I have 1, 2. So from here, 1, 2. So my answer is 175.28 yards, which is G. Again, the keyword is right there, times. Number 3, at 8 a.m. the temperature was 56 degrees Fahrenheit. So at 8 a.m. it was 56. By noon, the temperature was 43. Describe the change in temperature. There's a keyword right there, change. What does change mean? Yes, very good. In this case, change means to subtract the difference, right? So we're gonna have to subtract two things. But we gotta look at this. What happened from 56 degrees to 43? Did the temperature go up or did the temperature go down? In this case, the temperature went down. And if we look at the number line, we have 0 right here. These are positives and this is negatives. So if it goes down, the answer must be negative, right? So I know that the change is going to be negative. So that eliminates 2 of my answers. Now to find the change, all I have to do is subtract 56 minus 43, which in this case is 13. And my answer is B. Any questions on that one? Anybody? Number 4. What is the value of minus 36 or negative 36 minus a negative 40? This is where the sign rules applies. And it says whenever we have 2 negatives, it just becomes a positive. That's kind of like a multiplication rule. But I showed you a shortcut. Every time you have an addition or subtraction and you have 2 negatives next to each other with no numbers or letters or anything in between, all you gotta do is make it a big plus right there. The theory behind it is on the sign rules, and I think I have a video for that, and if I find it, I'll leave a link for you up here. So basically, it's a multiplication. You have like a minus 1 times a negative 40. Minus and minus makes a positive. That's the theory behind it. So now, we have a negative, and then you have a positive. So the rule says for adding and subtracting opposite signs, subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna subtract 40 minus 36, which is 4. So that eliminates 2 of the answers. In this case, the bigger number, in this case, just the number, ignore the sign. The bigger number is going to be the 40, and the 40 is positive, so my answer has to be H. My answer is H. It has to be positive. Number 5. We have another one just like number 1, but instead of adding, we're subtracting. I'm going to show you the 2 ways as well. 2 over 21 minus 1/3. Again, we need the least common denominator or any common denominator. And I know that if I multiply this whole thing by 7, I get 21 at the bottom. 3 times 7 is 21. So my new one is going to be 2 over 21 minus 1 times 7 is 7. 3 times 7 is 21. Just like that. However, all I got to do is take care of the top. 21 stays the same. But the top is a little bit different. This is, again, these same rules applies. Opposite sign, subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So 7 minus 2 is going to be 5. However, the 7 is bigger and the 7 is negative. So my answer is negative 5 over 21. I can't simplify this any further. So my answer is going to be A. The other way to do this is going to be the same thing that we did before. 2 over 21 minus 1/3. We're going to multiply these 2. Remember, we multiply those 2. 21 times 3 is what? 63. And then 2 times 3 is 6. Minus, now is a minus, 1 times 21 is 21. Now we subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Again, 21 is bigger, so that's like that. 21 minus 6, that is 15, divided by 63. This one, we can simplify. We can divide both of them by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Remember, this is still negative. 63 divided by 3 is 21. My answer is the same as before. A little extra step because we had to simplify on that one. But you should know how to simplify. Number 6. Sarah wrote 2 decimals on the chalkboard. The decimals she wrote were 5.73 and negative 6.1. What is the sum of the 2 decimals that she wrote? So basically you have 5.73 plus a negative 6.1. That's what we have. And you can rewrite it like negative 6.1 plus 5.73. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, we still have this right here. We have opposite signs. We have a positive and we have a negative. So we must subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So we're just going to treat this as 6.1 minus 5.73. Make sure you fill out the empty spaces. That way you will not make a mistake. This is 7. $0.37. So that leaves 2 answers. However, we gotta keep the sign of the bigger number. Which one is bigger? 6.1 or 5.73? In this case, the bigger number by itself, without looking at the sign, just the number by itself, is going to be 6.1. The bigger number is going to be 6.1, and that one is negative, so my answer must be negative, which is H. That's how you do those. Number 7. Bruce drew a rectangle with the length of 8 3/4 inches and a width of 6 inches. So we have a rectangle with the length and width. That's for Bruce. Now Brandon drew a rectangle with dimensions that were 1.5 times, again, keyword for multiply, the dimensions on Bruce's rectangle. What is the length? Again, length, we're looking for the new length of Brandon's rectangle. So we don't care about the width right here. We don't care about that one. Unless you want to do it by finding proportions, but this case is going to be more difficult. So in this case, all we have to do is multiply. So we have 8 3/4 times 1 1/2. And I'm going to do this 2 ways. So the first way, in this one, we have a mixed number. Before we can multiply those mixed numbers, we need to convert them into improper fractions. And to do so, we're going to multiply these 2 and then add that to get the new numerator. We call it Walk Around Texas. So 8 times 4 is 32 plus 3 is 35. Denominator stays the same. Times 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Denominator stays the same. And the way we multiply fractions is straight across. 35 times 3 is how much? 3, 6, 9, 105. And the bottom is 4 times 2 is 8. Now, we cannot leave this like that because it doesn't match any of our answers. So we must convert this back into a mixed number. And we're going to do that by T-vote. 105 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 105? It's going to go in 13 times. 13 times 8 is 104. You subtract, you get a remainder of 1. So you're going to use, you stop right there. So you're going to use these three numbers that we have outside to make the new mixed number. So this is going to be the whole number, the numerator, and the denominator. So it's going to look like 13 and 1/8, which is the. That's it. Now the other way to do this, it might be a little more difficult because at the end you might need to convert back into a fraction if you don't know the fractions, some of the fractions by memory yet. So you can convert this into decimal and multiply 8.75 times 1.5. So when you multiply that, you get 13.125. I know by memory that 0.125 equals 1/8. So this is that. But if you don't know that by memory, you're going to have to put that over 1,000 and simplify. So put 125 over 1,000 and then simplify. And then at the end, you're going to get the same answer, 1/8. So those are the two ways. Yes, the walk around Texas is a little bit longer, but it takes you right to the final answer. Number 8. What is the value of negative 36 divided by negative 4/9? So we have a division, however, we have an integer, a negative integer, and we also have a negative fraction. So we're going to divide this. But in order to divide this, we're going to have to do two things. First, we need to have that negative integer into a fraction form. And we can make any whole number or negative integer into a fraction by just putting a 1 under that. Now, this is going to come out with the sign rules as well. But now we're talking about the multiplication and division sign rules. And it says if you have two positives, it's happy. Two negatives is happy. Opposites is sad. Opposites is sad. So in this case, we actually have two negatives. So my answer must be positive. So you can eliminate these two. So now, once we have the two fractions, we can do the keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the first fraction as is. We're going to change the division to multiply, and we're going to flip the second fraction. So it's going to be 9/4. And now we can multiply straight across. 36 times 9 gives you 324. 1 times 4 is 4. So when you divide that, you get 81, which is that. And that's it for that one. Again, sign rules and then keep, change, flip when you divide in fractions. Number 9, we have, again, addition of two fractions. One of them is a negative fraction, the other one is a positive mixed number. So we're going to do the same thing. So in this case, first, we have to walk around Texas, multiply, then add to write my new fraction. So it's going to be negative 3/4 plus 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Denominator stays the same. So we have the same rule from before that says opposite signs, subtract, and keep. We're going to use that same rule. Opposite signs, subtract, and keep, because we're adding and subtracting. Opposite signs, subtract, and keep the sign. Now, if we look at this one, first of all, we need to have the same denominator, right? So we're going to do it the two ways as well. My common denominator in this case is going to be 4. I can multiply this whole thing by 2, and it will give me the denominator that I want. So my new fraction is going to be negative 3/4 plus 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4. Now we're going to subtract 10 minus 7. 10 minus 3 is 7. Denominator is 4. Now we got to change that back into a mixed number by doing TiVo. 7 goes inside, 4 goes outside. That goes in one time, and my remainder is 3. So my answer is going to be A, 1 and 3/4. Remember, this is the numerator. Whole number, numerator, denominator. And the other way to do this is to take this one right here, negative 3/4 plus 5/2. Again, I cannot do the other method with the mixed number. I have to change that. So, again, multiply these two. So that's going to be 8. Then this times that. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Plus this times that is 20. 20 minus 6 is 14/8. You can divide both of these by 2. So that gives you 7/4, which is the same thing that we hear, and we just follow that step. So it's 1 3/4. Now you could change those into decimals as well and do it like that, but then you will have to convert back into fractions. That's another option. Which one do you like better? Do you like method 1 or do you like method 2 better? It's up to you. Leave it down in the comments. Number 10, the last one. Which one of the following does not have a value of negative 5? I'm looking for the wrong answer. So let's do this real quick. Let's see. Let's start with the easy ones. I have negative 10 divided by 2. That's just going to be 5. Equals 5. Negative and positive makes a negative. So that is negative 5. I'm looking for not negative 5. Let's look at H. Opposite signs, subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. 18 minus 13, that's 5. This is bigger, so this is positive. So my answer must be H. Let's prove the other ones wrong as well. Negative 20 times 0.25. When I multiply that, I get negative 5. And then 0.20 minus 5 1/4 is also negative 5 because this is bigger. So my answer was indeed J. This is the only one that did not give me negative 5. Does anybody have any questions so far? If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Other than that, I hope that you learned something today. If you want to support the channel, link down in the description. And don't forget to actually check out my other channel, MTB Alex. That's it for this one, guys. And I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.